Welcome. We gather here tonight to remember and reflect upon the sacred story that defines our faith. It's by the incredible power of Christ's death and resurrection that we are justified before God. This isn't our own doing, it's a gift of His grace. We place our faith in the power of Jesus' death on the cross and His resurrection from the grave. This evening, we will confront the harsh reality of the crucifixion. It is a painful story, one of betrayal, one of suffering, one of a most cruel death. The service is meant to be somber because it invites us to truly experience the gravity of Jesus' sacrifice. Let's sit with the discomfort, attempt to grasp what that night might have been like, and allow the surrounding silence to move us. It's difficult. I know we naturally want to think of happier things and fill the quietness with noise. But tonight, let's not do that. Let's allow the weight of this story to penetrate deep into our hearts and move us. As we go through the service this evening, this room will grow darker and darker, and at the end of the service, the room will be completely dark. When the doors open in the back, that's your cue to leave quietly. Please wait until the doors are open in the back before you exit, and when you do exit, do so in silence. If you feel led to stay and pray silently, I would encourage you to stay as long as you'd like and do that. And remember that we will gather back in this room on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. To celebrate the resurrection. For that service, I ask you to enter with the same silence that you leave here in today. Thank you for being here tonight. In just a second, Steve is going to lead us in the refrain, which we will repeat again and again as we go through this service. I'll let him do that. But before we do that, will you join me in reading our call to worship? It is printed in the worship guides that were handed out to you, that you found whenever you walked in. I will read the light print. You read the bold. Who has believed what we have heard, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Surely he has borne our infirmities and carried our diseases. Yet we account him stricken, struck down by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the punishment that made us whole. And by his bruises we are healed.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. And Jesus said to them, "You will all become deserters, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to Galilee." Peter said to him, "Even though all become deserters, I will not." Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this day, this very night, before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. But he said vehemently, "Even though I must die with you, I will not deny you." And all of them said the same. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter and James and John, and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, if it were possible, that the hour might pass from him. He said, Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want. He came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, Simon, are you asleep? Could you not wake? Keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to say to him. He came a third time and said to them, Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up. Let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him there was a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard. So when he came, he went up to him at once and said, Rabbi, and kissed him. Then they laid hands on him and arrested him. But one of those who stood near drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to them, Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me, as though I were a bandit? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But let the scriptures be fulfilled. All of them deserted him and fled.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
They took Jesus to the high priest, and all of the chief priests, the elders, and the scribes were assembled. Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest, and he was sitting with the guards, warming himself at the fire. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but they found none. For many gave false testimony against him, but their testimony did not agree. Some stood up and gave false testimony against him, saying, We heard him say, I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another, not made with hands. But even on this point, their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But he was silent and did not answer. Again, the high priest asked him, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" And Jesus said, "I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "Why do we still need witnesses? You have heard his blasphemy. What is your decision?" All of them condemned him as deserving death. Some began to spit on him, to blindfold him, and to strike him, saying to him, "Prophesy." The guards also took him over and beat him.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
While Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she stared at him and said, "You also were with Jesus, the man from Nazareth." But he denied it, saying, "I do not know or understand what you're talking about." And he went out into the forecourt. Then the cock crowed. The servant girl, on seeing him, began again to say to the bystanders, "This man is one of them." But again he denied it. Then after a little while, the bystanders again said to Peter, "Certainly you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." But he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know this man you're talking about." At that moment, the cock crowed for the second time. Then Peter remembered that Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. And he broke down and wept.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
As soon as it was morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and the scribes and the whole council. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He answered him, "You say so." Then the chief priests accused him of many things. Pilate asked him again, "Have you no answer?" See how many charges they bring against you? But Jesus made no further reply, so that Pilate was amazed. Now at the festival he used to release a prisoner for them, anyone for whom they asked. Now a man called Barabbas was in prison with the rebels who had committed murder during the insurrection. So the crowd came and began to ask Pilate to do for them according to his custom. Then he answered them, "Do you want me to release for you the king of the Jews?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that the chief priests had handed him over. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have him release Barabbas for them instead. Pilate spoke to them again. "Then what do you wish me to do with the man you call the King of the Jews?" They shouted back, "Crucify him." Pilate asked them, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify him." So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas for them. And after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Then the soldiers led him into the courtyard of the palace, that is, the governor's headquarters. And they called together the whole cohort, and they clothed him in a purple cloak. And after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on him. And they began saluting him, "Hail, King of the Jews." They struck his head with a reed, spat upon him, and knelt down in homage to him. After mocking him, they stripped him of the purple cloak and put on his own clothes on him. They led him out to crucify him. They compelled a passerby who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. It was Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of a skull. They offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. They crucified him and divided his clothes among them, casting lots to decide what each should take.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him they crucified two bandits, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "Aha, you who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him among themselves and saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him also taunted him.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "Listen, he is calling for Elijah." And someone ran, filled a sponge with sour wine, and put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down."
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Surely, this man was the Son of God. Those are the words of an unnamed Roman executioner at the foot of the cross. I want you to put yourselves in his mind for a moment. Imagine that you are a Roman centurion and executioner. You've done this before. You've lost count, actually. How many times you've walked a condemned man up a hill, checked the nails, checked the ropes, stood back, waited for it to be over. You know the sounds by heart. The mallet strikes, the gasp when the cross drops into the post hole, the noise of the crowd. You're a centurion, professional. You've kept order in places most Roman citizens couldn't find on a map. And you've done it by not flinching and not thinking too hard. Every day you carry items with you that are symbolic of the world and worldview that you are deeply a part of. The eagle standard that your unit marches behind. The coins in your belt pouch, each one stamped with a face and a title. Tiberius Caesar, son of the divine Augustus. Divi Filius, son of a god. You swore an oath to him. The empire that you serve isn't just an empire or a government, it is faith. And you are one of its priests, doing what priests do, carrying out the sentence of the God that you serve. Today, that means you are to carry out another execution. And so you do your job. You check the nails, post the guard rotation, you glance up at the man in the middle cross. Some Galilean the Sanhedrin wanted dead, and you don't think much of it. But then again, there's something about this man that just doesn't fit. This man doesn't curse, doesn't beg, doesn't bargain, doesn't rage or plead or spit at the guards. He prays. And not for himself. Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. Of course, you've heard men pray on crosses before. There's nothing new about that. But they always pray for themselves. Always, God, let me live, or make it stop. This man prays for you, the executioner. For you, the one holding the hammer. For your fellow soldiers casting lots over his clothes. He is the one being killed, and he is the one asking God to forgive you. It's not just the prayer that alerts you that this is no ordinary execution. It's the way this man carries himself. There's a composure that has no business being on a cross, kind of authority that shouldn't survive what the flogging alone would have done to a man's body. A dignity that doesn't make sense, not here, not nailed to Roman lumber between two thieves. You can't name it yet. Something in your chest has changed and shifted. And then the sky goes dark. Not dusk. You know, there isn't a storm rolling in. It's noon. It's the middle of the day. And the light just leaves. You are a man trained to trust what you can see and control. You've built a career on it. Read the terrain, assess the threat, respond. But there is no response for this. The sun takes no orders from Rome. You have no category for everything you're experiencing, and yet the man on the cross hasn't said a word about any of it. He hangs there as if this darkness answers to him, not the other way around. Then the man on the cross opens his mouth, and what comes out is not what dying men say. Tetelestai. It is finished. Not, I am finished, not, it's over. This is not surrender. You know what surrender sounds like. You've heard that before. But this is something entirely different. This man isn't surrendering, he's declaring, like someone who came here to do something specific and just did it. You've seen hundreds of men die. Not one of them chose the moment. Death chose it for them. But this man, it was almost as if the cross didn't take his life from him. As if he set it down himself. Everything you thought you knew about death, about power, about who's in control when a man hangs on the cross, all of it is falling apart. The nails are still in place. The crossbar hasn't moved, but something has shifted so completely that you're no longer sure who's in charge of this execution. And then you say it. You don't plan to, you don't decide to, it just comes up out of you. You have no idea where it comes from. Truly, this man was the Son of God. You hear your own voice. It doesn't sound like you. You're not a man who says things like this. You're a man who follows orders, files reports, keeps his head down. But the words are out now and you can't take them back. You're not even sure you want to. Words that you just said, they are not safe words. They are, in fact, about the most dangerous sentence a Roman soldier could ever say out loud. Remember, in your world, there is already a Son of God. His name is Tiberius Caesar, Divi Filius. It's carved into stone above government buildings and temples across the empire. Caesar is divine. His authority comes from heaven. And to question that is to question everything: the law, military, the economy, your career, your oath, your place in the world. And you, standing at the foot of a Roman cross, surrounded by Roman soldiers, wearing Roman armor, have just looked at the man Rome executed and called him the Son of God. Not Caesar, this bleeding, suffocated Galilean. That's treason. You know that. But you don't take it back. You couldn't even if you wanted to. You didn't read the Hebrew prophets. You didn't sit at this man's feet for 3 years and hear the sermons and see the miracles. You didn't grow up in a synagogue. You just watched a man die. And the way this man died: prayer for his killers, the composure, the darkness, the shout, the authority with which he gave up his own life, it was enough. It was more than enough. It was the only sermon you ever needed. You look down at your hands, the hands that held the nails in place, that swung the hammer. And then you look at the coins in your belt. Face, Caesar, stamped on one side. You look back up at the cross, and you know, beyond any shadow of a doubt, truly, this man was the Son of God. What have we done?
My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but find no rest. Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. In you our ancestors trusted. They trusted and you delivered them. To you they cried and were saved. In you they trusted and were not put to shame. But I am a worm and not human, scorned by others and despised by the people. All who see me mock me. They make mouths at me. They shake their heads. Commit your cause to the Lord. Let him deliver. Let him rescue the one in whom he delights. Yet, it was you who took me from my mother's womb. You kept me safe on my mother's breast. On you I was cast from my birth. And since my mother bore me, you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one to help. Many bulls encircle me. Strong bulls of Bashan surround me. They open wide their mouths at me like a ravening and roaring lion. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted within my breast. My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to my jaws. You lay me in the dust of death, for dogs are all around me. A company of evildoers encircles me. My hands and my feet have shriveled. I can count all my bones. They stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among themselves. And for my clothing, they cast lots. But you, O Lord, do not be far away. O my help, come quickly to my aid. Deliver my soul from the sword and my life from the power of the dog. Save me from the mouth of the lion, from the horns of the wild oxen. You have rescued me. Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. Then Joseph bought a linen cloth, and taking down the body, wrapped it in the linen cloth, and laid it in a tomb that had been hewn out of the rock. He then rolled a stone against the door of the tomb.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? they nailed him to a tree? Were you there when they nailed him to a tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble.